My name's Curtis Vollmer, and my vegan journey or my animal rights awakening started in 2017 in the fall. And I remember this vividly. It was the first Tuesday in November. I used to have BLT nights at my house, bacon, lettuce, tomato nights, with members of the running community that I was kind of involved with in Richmond, Virginia at the time. And people were on their way over to my house, and I was scrolling through YouTube to find a playlist, music to play when people were over. And this Best Speech You'll Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky came across the feed of recommended videos. And I have no idea why this video came up. I wasn't even looking into veganism or animal rights. I had no idea what the word vegan meant at the time. And I started watching some of this speech, and I got about 5-10 minutes into it, and then I hear the door knocks. People were knocking on my door. So I put the music on. We had our BLT night, and we drank, had beers, and had the bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches, and everybody left. It's about 11 o'clock, and that speech was still in my mind, so I grabbed my laptop and got in bed and hit play, and 12:30, the speech ends, and I'm just sitting in bed like, fuck, Woke up the next morning, threw all the shit out, all the animal products out, and that was it, like instantly, overnight. And about a month later, I was doing like disruptions and speak outs in restaurants and grocery stores, and 2 months later, I was arrested at a protest in North Carolina at the Smithfield Slaughterhouse. So my journey from being, a mindless or unaware consumer, whatever you want to call it, to kind of who I am now was rather rapid. And yeah, that's my story. I've been a runner my entire life, and I actually ran in college, had a lot of success with that. I was a 406 miler in college and ran a 411 mile just 3 years ago. So running is still a big part of my life. The one thing I did feel was that I could recover a little bit quicker than I used to be able to do. Like especially after a really hard day, whether it be 5 by a mile at a set pace or a really hard long run, that used to take me 2 or 3 days to like really feel 100%. I feel like my recovery time was cut down a little bit. Reading online and talking with other athletes, that seems to be kind of a similar story, is the whole recovery time. Another thing I noticed is that I've become more connected with nature and with the natural world. I feel that everything is connected in one way or another, and that I'm just another animal on this planet. And at the end of the day, my existence is really insignificant. Being on this planet for 70, 80, 90 years is just like, it's not significant at all, and we might as well make the most of it while we're here. My contribution that I can do is to put my time and effort into activism and to use my privilege. I have white, male, hetero, cis privilege, and the thing that I can do with that is be an influence to those around me and help get the message of animal rights out there even more. I feel like it's important for others to not only just be vegan, but also to become an activist and to get involved in your activism community and help build that community, because this is very taxing on your mind and on your body, and especially if you don't have people around you to support you. I read horror stories online all the time. I don't know why I read these stories. I guess because we all relate to them in some way or another about, had this big blow up with my mom over dinner or this and that. And we need to build a community to be able to vent to one another, to be able to get through a lot of these things. It's not enough to just be vegan. The reasons to be vegan are just overwhelming. The animal rights issue, the environmental issue, workers' rights. A lot of these workers in these places are undocumented. Low income and minority communities. And now we know that, pandemics, 75% of new and emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic, and slaughterhouses and factory farms are breeding grounds for these viruses, and these pandemics and antibiotic-resistant diseases. So the reasons to be vegan are there, and we need more. We need more activists. We desperately need more activists, and at the very least, people that are supporting acts of civil disobedience, acts of nonviolent direct action, to bring about this world that we want, to bring about this world where all animals are treated with kindness and respect. You know, when I first, went vegan, I was doing a lot of like street outreach and making YouTube videos of conversations, because that's kind of what I saw online. I was like, oh, this is what it means to be a vegan activist, or this is what it means to like spread the message. And I felt good about that, especially when I knew that someone when it clicked for them, and I was the reason for that. And it's still nice to have those conversations and to talk about the issues with people one-on-one. But it's definitely evolved more now into campaign building and strategic campaigns and pressure campaigns and home demos and protests and marches and investigations. And a lot of my friends now have felony charges. And again, you look back in history and you look at past social justice movements, and this is what it takes. So it's definitely evolved from, I'd say, general outreach and kind of like YouTube style veganism campaigning to more kind of in your face, civil disobedience and building a community around that. If people are having challenges, whether it be with diet or with social situations, whether it be with their family or their spouse or another loved one, there are plenty of support groups online, primarily Facebook. Whatever city you're in, if you type in vegans of whatever city it is, you'll find a group of people, and you'll find people that you can talk to and that are willing to talk to about this. One thing that I'll say about the vegan community and the broader animal rights community is that they're some of the most welcoming and heartfelt people that I've ever been associated with. People that care about animals and the environment, generally care about other people, and know exactly what it's like to be ostracized for, I wouldn't even say it's having a belief, it's having a lack of belief. You don't believe that animals should be treated this way. So yeah, find the community. There's definitely people out there. Even if you're in some small town, there's other people there for sure. I guess it's kind of cliche to say, but the only regret I have is not getting involved in this sooner. I think about my collegiate track experience, and I had a lot of success with that. I was conference champion multiple times. I was an All-American, Division I All-American. And I think about some of the creative actions I could have done, like holding signs at track meets on the track, disrupting races at track meets, or doing all sorts of crazy things, at events. College sports are a huge part of culture in the United States, for better or worse. And I feel like if I would have been an activist then, I would have had an awesome platform, big platform, where people would have been paying attention. But that's gone. You can't turn back time. So yeah, long story short, I wish I would have gotten involved with what I'm doing sooner. And if you talk with any vegan, any activist, any animal rights person, they'll more than likely tell you the same, that they would have stumbled across this information sooner. With regards to things that I've done, bridges that I may have burned, actions that I've taken, I don't regret anything that I've done. It's all been a learning experience, and I'm sure that I'll make many more mistakes along the way, but that's how you learn. How my activism's evolved, I would say that it's evolved a lot, and it's kind of probably morphed into what it's more than likely going to be for the foreseeable future here, working with Direct Action Everywhere. And when I first started, I was really into one-on-one change and connecting with individuals and trying to get other individuals to quote unquote go vegan. And I don't really see that as the most effective way to bring about change in the world. I see this as a systemic issue, and I think that we need to be attacking the systems, governments and political leaders and these corporations, and that we shouldn't be focusing too much on this kind of go vegan narrative, because I see it as bigger than that, and we can actually, there's actually allies that aren't necessarily vegan. For example, last year I was part of a team that exposed this horrific ventilation shutdown, torture practice at this company in Iowa that was basically boiling pigs alive. And it was made possible by a guy that worked for the company that was driving the pigs around, that blew the whistle on it. And without this guy, we wouldn't have had this investigation. We wouldn't have had an article by Glenn Greenwald, Pulitzer Prize winning Glenn Greenwald. So I think that this kind of purity campaign to get individuals to go vegan is not the correct means about bringing the change that we want. And I think that we need, activists more than anything, or at the very least people supporting people doing investigations, people doing uncomfortable protests, people doing acts of civil disobedience. We look back at past social justice movements, whether it be civil rights or suffragettes fighting for women's voting rights. It wasn't until with the women's voting rights, for example, it wasn't until they literally started blowing shit up, literally blowing mailboxes up and blowing houses up, until their message started to come across to the political elite and the establishment. So to think that this animal rights movement is going to be any different than any movement in the past is silly, I think, to me. So I think it's a social justice issue, and we should be treating it as such. Anybody that wants to get started that's unaware of the issues surrounding animal rights or veganism, there's plenty of documentaries and speeches and stuff on YouTube. I mean, there's a new one called Seaspiracy that talks strictly about ocean life. There's a documentary, Cowspiracy. There's Forks Over Knives. Earthlings is a really great documentary. Dominion's a great documentary. So all of this information is out there, but if people are trying to, take a step into activism, I definitely recommend that they, get involved with the Save movement and, do vigils. Go and see the animals. Take your phone, take your camera, and witness these animals suffering on these slaughterhouses and on these trucks, and share it on social media. It can have a profound impact on people and help people really connect and see why that people get so obsessed with this, because they see the distress and the fear and the suffering in the animals, and it'll help you connect with not only the animals but people such as myself that have been pretty much driven mad by all of this. Resources with regards to changing your own consumer habits, or going from eating animals to not eating animals, and eggs and dairy and all that. I definitely think that people need to see what's happening to the animals. This is kind of like my personal theory or hypothesis on all this, is that until people are willing to sit down and face the harsh reality of what's happening, we can talk about the environment. People nod their head. We can talk about health implications, but until people see what's happening to the animals, until you watch documentaries like Earthlings or Dominion, or actually go see the animals yourself on those slaughter trucks, I don't think that people will change for good. So my advice or my resource, again, Earthlings or Dominion, or go with a friend or a family member that's already involved in this type of stuff to some type of action where you can see the animals and document that for yourself.